milestone for the half marathon runners.
And here's the guys who are doing the full 42 Ks. Joseph Marugo is still out in front, and Scott Westcott is also with them. So this elite group hasn't changed a lot. The configurations have gone backwards and forwards, but it's really been this bulk of 7 or 8 runners that have been out in front since the early days.
And I think if we get the first, if we say the first two, we'll make the judgment there, the pacing. We're down to sort of a pack of 5 behind them. So we lost a couple along that group. I think there were 7 initially. So they're starting to just dwindle a little bit.
Here's a split at the 15-kilometre mark. Koitalay with 47.31. Then Al Hassan Ben Kanouche with 47.32. Also Maragu with 47.32. And you can see Mahali as well. Cheboy on the same time. And then we go back to a few others.
What a disappointing was, I think, is Michael there, dropping well off the pace, as Steve said. He was the one that maybe was up there at the stage, and then is about a minute or so behind now.
Yeah, and I've worked that the splits out at they're about 3:10-kilometre pace, which will give them about the 2:13 mark. So they are slightly off that record pace, and we're correct on that assessment at the moment.
With a couple of lovely ladies in the Opera House in the background. Not that these leaders will have a chance to have a look at that beautiful view, but the Rocks, of course, a marvellous place, and in its early days, very, very popular. Still is now. Plenty of bars and clubs and great places to go and eat and dine.
And here are the leaders going through Centennial Park, one of the world's great city parks. There we go, 23K. So they're going, I'm not sure if that's right actually, but well, they're into almost 1 hour into the event.
I think that's 23K to go, isn't it?
Yeah, to go, that'd be right.
Yeah.
You get to an hour into the event. I think that's quite significant because you're over an hour. You know you're going to be 2 hours plus, but you really can't think about the finish until you get that first hour out of the way. So, you know, I always reminded me of ticking that off.
So what occupies your mind then at this stage? Because you've got the start, you've opened up a bit of a gap, you basically know who your opponents are and who's sticking with you at the moment. What occupies the mind for these runners over the next half an hour, where they're just trying to keep their own rhythm, establish what they can do, but what actually goes through the brain box?
Oh, you're conscious now of approaching halfway, so you're starting to think, really, halfway is exactly that. It's only halfway, and all of the lead-up, you've tried to spare as much energy and effort as you can, stay out of trouble, settle into the pack and realise who the main competitors against you are, and then, once you turn through halfway, you start saying, well, the race is almost beginning, to be honest.
Yeah, you get the feeling, don't you, when you watch some of the international major races on world competition, you get the feeling that the halfway mark is the point where they all start thinking, right, I'm going to conserve myself as long as I can before someone really puts the pressure on, before someone really makes a break. Then I'm going to have to make a move.
Got to go with them.
Yeah.
Lucky Mahali is the man in the black cap there, in the yellow, the number 10. He's from South Africa, 28-year-old, and we caught up with him earlier this week. And there he is, and just enjoying life. A lot of the internationals here are doing exactly that. To run through his stats from Pretoria for the 10K, 28.31, half marathon 101.08, and marathon 2:13.35. He is a 4-time half marathon champion in South Africa, so he's going to be there figuring prominently, you would suggest, in another hour or so's time, is Lucky Mahali.
One of the interesting things, I mean, watching those interviews, Steve, is how little these athletes actually eat before they actually run the marathon. Did you have a special diet before you know?
I didn't eat much before either. A couple of pieces of toast and a cup of tea was my morning preparation. Even if I ran in the afternoon, I would normally just have that and a bit more toast. That's all I really had. And your main meal is the day before, and like hydrating, it's about the week leading in. If you keep your carbohydrates up during the week, hopefully you're loaded up anyway. And really all I ate on the morning for was to settle the rumble of your tummy, because you get no benefit out of the food intake, because your digestive system normally closes down anyway. All the energy, oxygen's going, blood's going out to your muscles. So food, don't want to have too much. Don't want to have any fibre or anything that might give you the runs rather than let you run.
He still looks like he eats about
yeah, he's a bit of a greyhound, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, track runners are totally different from that. We used to have a healthy breakfast and a healthy meal before we even stepped on the track, so a totally different attitude towards preparation in terms of nutrition anyway.
Here is the split, and Beatrice Chepkemboy out front at the moment, along with Biratat Degafar. Degafar from Ethiopia and Chimboy from Kenya, 52.32. So that's the split for them on the way through. They've opened up a bit of a cap along with Gurmu, and then you move back to Mogaka and also Jin Ling Ling, the Chinese runner in there, and a couple of Australians rounding out the top 10.
So 21 on to 206. So they're running fast. So they're at 2:30 marathon pace or quicker. So again, I think the females are really showing the men up. I reckon the females are on a pretty good pace.
Mona's just taking his shoes and socks off to do that mathematical calculation. Is that right? He's just getting the hands and the fingers and the toes going.
Well, we'll certainly get it confirmed through halfway in 20k, but I reckon they're going fast.
This is Yared Charu here. I think just... Was he dropping off the pace? I think he is some way back, maybe. This is the lead. He's in the chase group, I think. Yep.
We don't even need to know, because we can look at his style and his technique and his head down. It's all over for him. He's having a bad day at the office today, so you can tell he's lost. He's definitely off that lead group.
Okay, so Yared Charu just battling over the hour mark. This is the leaders out in front at the moment.
Yeah, and we certainly see they're a lot more up and bouncing and very, very positive in their running. So one less to worry about in that lead group.
And there's those that simply say, no, I want to talk and converse while I'm running.
There are some events that ban them. They don't want it because you can't hear emergency vehicles and instructions around you. So it's become very accepted, though. You see lots of people out training who will, and again, you should practice it. And if it works for you in training and want to use it in the race, then if you're allowed to, you stick to your routine.
We can see our elite runners here just making that turn again, the U-turn, and back through the beautiful parkland, Centennial Park, Hyde Park. We traverse all over Sydney here as a part of the 42 kilometres to finish at the Sydney Opera House. And we appear to have lost our pacemaker. Scott Westacott has fallen by the wayside, and Joseph Maragu is the man out in front now.
Well, as he almost has been from the gun, really. I mean, Scott's been accompanying him, but this man really has decided to push it on all the way, and he's doing a great job. But you get the feeling, though, that the real race is going on behind him, really. Most of the athletes there in that group of about 5 or so have just been watching all the way, seeing what's going on up our front. And as we said, it's not just about the Africans here. There's a good Frenchman here, and Lacuche looks really comfortable just behind in second place at the moment.
Yes, I think they've gone a little bit quicker. I think Scotty's probably finished off his work and just got them on a slightly quicker pace. So I think they've got going a little bit, and that might be why they've stretched that field a bit. I just sense that they're doing it a bit harder at this point in time. So there's a bit of pressure on up the front.
Beautiful area they are traversing at this stage. 1:08 travelled so far. This is our lead group of elite runners. But Centennial Park, just 10 minutes from Sydney's CBD. Beautiful, 15,000 trees, beautiful flower beds, manicured lawns. It's the birthplace of modern Australia, the Federation Pavilion. The runners will pass by that, marks the spot where Australia was declared a nation in 1901. It extends over 360 hectares, encompasses Centennial, Moore and Queen's Park in there. Some beautiful waterways. Families love getting there. A beautiful picnic can be had, and it is a favourite park of Sydney locals, providing a stunning backdrop for a lazy Sunday just like today. The runners, though, won't be noticing all of that, but we know the Sydney locals and international visitors alike love getting to Centennial Park.
Oh, that's fantastic, those aerial shots there of Sydney. We've seen some fantastic side of the city itself, and if you're watching from overseas, I think you'll probably be jumping on the travel guide and trying to get your bookings on to come across to Sydney for this sort of event, because it's absolutely fantastic.
It is brilliant, and it is certainly Australia's capital in as far as the Blackmore Sydney Running Festival goes. So even if you're coming here, you don't need to run. You can just come in and put a picnic rug down in Centennial Park.
You can, yeah. It's a World Cross Country trial was here in 1983, so it's been used for a number of races, and obviously through here at the Sydney Olympics was probably one of the most special parts of that Olympic course going through Centennial Park.
The blue line, which the runners will be glancing on and off. Obviously, the course has changed slightly, but the blue line so important, and really that was the foundation. That was why this was started in 2001 after the success of the Sydney Olympics. We harnessed that power, that people power, and the blue line again became a figure. And Monas, for you, obviously, it must be superb to be able to watch where you had run this course.
Oh, and I feel a part of the legacy. You know, you can say the legacy is infrastructure. We often go, well, it's some great stadium or something, but what about the human legacy that we've left with having 35,000 people out here, recreational runners participating? Gee, I'm so delighted that we can leave that impact on society as well. So we often forget that part of the Olympics and what effect it's had on this city and this country and people exercising.
Well, when we saw the finish to the family run, a lot of those children weren't even born when the Sydney Olympics were on.
Thanks for that.
Yet the legacy for them comes through mum and dad who watched you run, Monas.
That's right. I'm doing a number of autographs at this point in time for young kids who might be pushed up by their parents, and I'm sure there's a lot of Googling goes on when they get home.
As against Steve Ovett, who the parents are actually pushing up and saying, now we've better Google him when we get home.
I think it's the grandparents are pushing him up with me, but yeah. Back to the women's leaders though, and it's not been much change here really. These two have been absolutely neck and neck, or shoulder to shoulder I should say, for almost all of the race.
They are like twins. I'm amazed. Look at that stride pattern. They are in a beautiful rhythm. To be able to hold that stride pattern, their arm action, quite a high arm action as the Africans often do. They have a higher arm carriage, and they're like replicas of each other.
Sometimes do you actually think, all right, well, I might be able to put someone off here if I take a little short step? Does it affect you at all if you're running shoulder to shoulder?
Oh, they're probably trained so much now. They've got their common rhythm. It's a subconscious thing that they would just slot into.
They're not glancing at each other, though, are they? There's not much, as you say, there's not much looking at each other. No, there's not a lot there. They're in their own little world, those two, and they're quite comfortable in doing that. Wearing
the 19 in the yellow is Beatrice Chepkemboi from Kenya, 31 years of age, and we caught up with her earlier this week. Beatrice Chepkemboi, and now it is Beretat Degafar, who is out by herself. So we'll bring you up to date with what is going on there. But those two that had been running stride by stride, our 10,000 metre junior Kenyan champion has now dropped out.
Yeah, and she looked around because obviously Degafar is thinking, well, is she okay initially? But then she also would say, okay, if she has dropped out, she knows now that she's running by herself and that she really has the road ahead of her to win this race. So she'll be now thinking, well, that's one less. Now where's the next female behind them? So she had her beside her. So it's changed up the race a little bit for her.
That was quite dramatic, really, wasn't it? Really, I mean, it wasn't a slow down. It was literally an instantaneous pull up. So hopefully she's not injured, or there's maybe even a little bit of cramp going on there. You never know, really. But obviously for Degafar, that's a big plus because now she's a woman on her own, really.
So problems at one stage for Beatrice Chepkemboi.